Oh God, I'm not on here.
We don't see each other, you know?
Every day.
The hours, yeah, so that, you know.
Oh my gosh, how are
He takes care of the whole thing.
Charlie, let's do a road trip. Thank you.
Hey Charlie, how are you? Today we're here to celebrate you, and we've got a whole bunch of stories, but we can't tell them publicly. But anyway, congratulations and thanks for all you've done. See you, son.
I met Charlie when we were all very young, probably in our early years. He was the one who asked me if I wanted to participate in the program here at CU. So it's thanks to Charlie that I came here to school at the University of Colorado. But I know many stories about Charlie, and to save Charlie's reputation, I won't share them. I will say some things later at the ceremony. But he's been an instigator, support person. He's been my friend forever, since the 60s.
I'd like to welcome everybody to this momentous occasion, celebration of the American Indian and the Asian American EOP programs, which a lot of you were a part of. I think these programs had a very great impact. It's like someone drops a rock in a pool and it ripples went out and out and out. They're all over the place. And I know that a lot of the people who were participants in these programs have had a great impact in their communities and on their families and just in general, doing all kinds of things. I mean, I've heard about people who were, you know, judges and lawyers and attorneys and anthropologists and all sorts of things were involved in education that I think maybe would have never got involved in any of that if it weren't for these programs and the support from the people who were the staff and also any interference with the university. A lot of us benefited from. I want to introduce this. I'm Tashira Mafuni. And this is Vanna Brown. No, I'm Delmer Hamilton, and this is DJ Ida Kato, or Kato Ida, however the name goes. Welcome everyone, and I hope everyone saw old acquaintances and were able to recognize them as well. And more so to catch up and hopefully to keep in touch more so after this thing is over. And I'm sure we'll have other events in the future. And so I'm going to let the lovely Vanna Brown, DJ.
Can we get this low enough? Anyway, I would like to echo what Delma was talking about. This really is a double celebration. And when I was walking on the campus yesterday, we were doing sort of a walkthrough for this event. And I was just realizing how many years it's been that many of us were here. It's been 50 years since the American Indian and the Asian American EOPs were together. And all of us remember that there were 5 EOP programs. There was BET, it's Black Education Program, UMA, Mexican American Students, and MAP, the Migrant Action Program. The American Indians and the Asian Americans were the 2 smallest groups, so we kind of hung out together. We did everything together, we partied together, we advocated together, we were there together, and I think it's for lots of reasons. Some people couldn't tell the difference between an Indian and an Asian. But I think there was also a spirit of the heart that we shared. And there was this commonality that we found from the very, very beginning. And so for many, it's a 50-year-long journey, and tonight is a celebration of that. And we're honoring Charlie Cambridge, who was critical, and actually I have to also acknowledge Elaine from the Asian side, who really were there to help sort of springboard and to really make sure that those programs that were there, as Delmer was talking about. And I know that on a personal level, it was my experience with the Asian American EOP, hanging out with American Indians and working with the others that really influenced the career choices that I made. None of us get here by ourselves. So what that we'd like to do is we'd like to just sort of thank and acknowledge. We had to write this down because I was writing it and I couldn't read my own handwriting. And it's looking for my face. It's in Delmer's belly. It's going, we just wrote this down because we really did not want to forget anybody. And if we have, please forgive us.
Some of the people we'd like to thank are David Aragon, who was the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Diversity and Student Services here at CU Boulder. And we'd also like to thank Haley Kohler, who is with the CU Alumni Association, Allison Smith and Rebecca Carter, am I saying right? Carty, I'm sorry, from the Heritage Center here, who helped us with this event. Calvin Hada, the president of the Japanese American Association of Colorado, and Kalseng DT, hope I said that right, who was the owner of the Tibet Kitchen, the Little Tibet Kitchen, who furnished that wonderful food for us.
So in addition to those, what we'd also like to do, there are a number of people that came from different parts of the country to be here, which is shows you how special this thing was. And so basically that's Dave Axtell, John Coffer, Henry Nakata, who's videotaping the event right now, and he also did an interview with Charlie this morning, and so that'll be available for folks later. Sue Tauka, Grace Turner, and Mel Tatsumi, so they all came from out of state. Is there anybody that we missed who came from outside of Colorado to be here today?
I think Charlie.
We always say, what time is Charlie off? We'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Gail Martinez Redhorse. She's one of the original students who lived in the house on 13th Street, and Stu Takeuchi, who was for the Asian American EOP, our fearless leader from 1973 to 1977. So it's really important to also acknowledge those that came before. There were a lot of people, and if you look in the back of your program, there's a list of people we'd like to thank. But there's certain people in particular who really went above and beyond the call of duty And today really was brought to you because of their really, really amazing efforts to make sure things happen. It's Elaine Takahashi, the mother of Asian American EOP, Diana Kim Garry, Lynn Noguchi, Brian Nakagawa, and Joyce Nakata Kim. And so if we could just give all of them.
That's kind of the welcomes. I was hopefully at some point that other people will have a chance to express their feelings about the programs and about Charlie and about Elaine and so on. But I'd like to call Dave Aragon, like I said, who's the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Diversity and Student Services here at CU, and I think he's going to give us a welcome. Dave.
Well, greetings, everyone, all of the alumni and the staff who originated the educational opportunity programs for Asian American and American Indian students. Such a pleasure for me to welcome you. And I want to extend regards and welcome from the leadership of the campus. Vice Chancellor Bob Boswell. Dr. Boswell is who I report to. And then, of course, he reports to our Chancellor, Dr. Phil DeStefano. So welcome, everyone. This last week, I had opportunity to talk with colleagues. Let's see if I can. I had opportunity to talk with colleagues who have retired from the university. I tried to get folks to come and show up and say hi and reconnect. So I extend regards from John Suda, who once worked with the EOP CMA program and the Student Organizations Finance Office. I give regards from Carol Miyagishima, who also extends back. One retiree who I stay in touch with is Al Ramirez, professor from the psychology department, now emeritus, and one time associate vice chancellor for faculty affairs. And then it's great to see the colleagues who I've enjoyed working with and looking up to over the years, Stuart Takeuchi, and also Sarge Haku. So nice to see you today. Wako. I want to tell you a little bit about the state of diversity and student enrollment at CU because it's a 50-year time span. This fall, 28% of our 2019 fall semester new student freshman class, 28% self-identify as African American, Asian American, Hispanic Latino, and Native American and Native Pacific Islander. We've been seeing a tremendous uptick in the demographic shifts coming to Colorado. The shifts that have hit on the western coast have hit on the southern border and are coming inland across the country. The final numbers for this fall haven't been finalized, but it's expected that 7,800 students out of 36,000 are students of color this year. Last year, when the numbers were confirmed, for Asian American students, it was 7.8% of the student body, 2,699 students. And that's at all levels, undergraduate, graduate levels as well. And for American Indian students, it's 1.6% last fall, 536 students at all levels. Real quick, with regard to our faculty, our Department of Ethnic Studies currently has 15 core faculty and 45 affiliated faculty in other departments. Our Center for Asian Studies has 130 core and affiliated faculty combined. And a more newly organized Center for Native American and Indigenous Studies has 20 core faculty and 40 more affiliated faculty from across the campus. So this is an honor to all of you, because all of you were the ones that got things started. You kicked it off. Even you did so even as student leaders. Oh, our students today can learn so much from you now. In 1969 and 1970, there was a scarcity of students of color. You made certain that the university would do better. So it's an honor to welcome all of you back You are black and gold. You are Buffaloes. For those who went to the game, I'm sorry that our team didn't pull it out today. By 1969, 1970, the educational opportunity programs were founded and established. They lasted for about 12 years. In 1982, campus leadership decided that the efforts would be integrated into mainstream departments, admissions for the recruiters, counseling for the retention program. That was an experiment that went on and continues to go on with pluses and minuses. In 1998, the Office of Diversity and Equity was established just over 20 years ago under the leadership of Professor Ophelia Miramontes, and she was an Associate Vice Chancellor. She helped to look at how are students being supported on this campus best. And she looked at 3 programs. She looked at what the University Learning Center evolved into with the Academic Access Institute, today called the McNeil Academic Program. She looked at the Minority Engineering Program, which I was associated with, and she looked at the Minority Arts and Sciences Program. And she said students in these programs support each other in view of their academic goals and their professional direction. They get scholarships. Let's expand that. So we created the CU Lead Alliance, Leadership, Excellence, Achievement, and Diversity. Today we have 14 programs that support students across all disciplines in academic neighborhoods with scholarships. And it's not so much based on the identity of one's race and ethnicity, but we do share the common value and commitment to our background, our culturally, and our race and ethnic identity in combination with our future professional identity to become educators, to become scientists, to become business professionals and entrepreneurs. That office, Diversity and Equity, in 2007 was elevated to a Vice Chancellor level office and expanded to the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Community Engagement, and that's the office that I'm a part of. 3 years ago, when I got the opportunity to meet everybody, several of the people on the stage here, I was blown away with how exciting it was to hear more about the stories of when you began as undergraduates here. Because I lived the same experience in the early 80s, and I looked up to those who were here before. I went on to become a student leader and a student body president, tri-executive in 1986, 87, and I've had a career on and off at the university since that time. When I look at all of you, I'm inspired. I'm inspired because I'm connected. It's proof of the timeless fellowship of the human spirit. I'm part of your story, and there are so many others, staff and faculty who I work with every day, and students who are experiencing the same experiences now that are part of the history that you started here. For several years, I knew Dr. Charles Cambridge as the preeminent rabble-rouser. 3 years ago, I got to know him and Elaine Takahashi as the deeply committed educators, passionate for their communities, social leaders, leaders for all of our communities. So I'm so glad to be here and celebrate with you today.
The main reason we're all here is to celebrate Charlie, Uncle Charlie, Chuck, our father, our son, whomever. And it really is wonderful, I think, for all of us, just to acknowledge everything that you've meant for so many of us. And to start off the honors and recognition to Elaine Takahashi, who is a very good friend and our family. So Elaine, I turn it over to you.
Hey, here we go. Thank you so much for coming here as I'm traveling long distances and joining us in this 50-year celebration and honoring Charlie. You have many good colleagues and friends who have flown long distances and driven a long way. And can you hear me? Yes. Here to be with you today, so cherish the moment. And you're going to get roasted and toasted today. I guess first met Charlie in 1969 while I was at CU Boulder as a music major, and while I was working part-time up on the hill at the Madam's, formerly known as the Madame Butterfly Gift Store, where Sue Talaka, who's here, DJ Kato, and Lynn Noguchi, who's in the front, also worked part-time to pay their expenses to get through college. So we were in charge of selling Japanese gift items, paraphernalia from the day, like different flavored cigarette papers, rollers, strobe lights, black lights, and hundreds of posters of all kinds. So one late morning, while I'm working in the store alone, in comes this fellow who, with his backpack and dark hair down to his shoulder, and walking kind of slowly and smiling, asking, "You probably don't have the posters of Raquel Welch wearing her furry bikini in the movie 1 Million BC, and a poster of Geronimo sitting down with his gun?" So I thought, out of 100 posters that are rolled up in these empty rice cracker cans, I'm thinking, what a strange combo. The fellow is surprised and laughs and looks really happy when I find the 2 posters. And he then asks with a grin, "Are you Navajo?" And I respond, "Are you Hawaiian?" From that day forward, my life would completely change. From an insulated music major to getting involved with higher ed opportunities, equal opportunities in Asian Pacific Island community politics. My life is another story, and that's for another day, and today is all about Charlie. So in addition to Charlie's illustrious academic career of obtaining his BA, MA, and PhD at CU Boulder in a 30 years time, short time, huh? 30 years time, from the time you were an undergraduate, he served as a catalyst for change at the university and beyond. His activism and advocacy for civil rights and inclusion began before 1969. He served as the youth conference and workshop director for the National Indian Youth Council, referred to as NIYC in 1967 through 1968 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yeah, that's what I saw on the internet. And in 1968, he participated with several NIYC members in DC in the Poor People's March led by Dr. Martin Luther King. NIYC, a nonprofit organization, was established in 1961 by young American Indian activists, college students, or recent college graduates that promoted American Indian pride, the development of American Indian studies in the college curriculum, and the recruitment of more American Indian students into major universities and colleges across the country. It was during 1969 that Charlie and a group of CU Boulder Asian American students that he had me recruit all across campus, like Sue Taoka, Lynn Noguchi, Mark Miyoshi, DJ Kato Ida, Al Kawanabe, and Glenn Nogami, to name a few, helped with CU Boulder's Student Crusade for American Indian Rights, known as SCAR, to help establish the American Indian and Asian American EOP programs, to recruit high-risk students, or to help retain Asian American students currently enrolled. The task was not easy due to resistance by the administration and other ethnic groups. Charlie was really effective in getting the CU Boulder student body, the Board of Regents, the President, the administration, UMass, BSA, MAP, Students for Democratic Society during that time, to support the cause with his informative speeches that he delivered in a calm and peaceful manner, which evoked emotions that resulted in positive action. He was a diplomatic and effective leader that mentored and taught American Indian and Asian American students about political strategy, using diplomacy and standing firm on the principles of advocating for equity and fairness for all. Charlie's stories of academic, personal, and activist accomplishments would take days to share, probably months. However, in the interest of time, I would like to highlight some of his extraordinary hard work, while other colleagues and friends here on stage are here to share his accomplishments in more detail of his wild and crazy life in the past 50 years. So for those who haven't read the brochure, as you know, he's an enrolled member of the Navajo tribe, and he helped establish the EOP programs on the CU campus and also both at Boulder and Denver, where he was a mentor, once again, to both American Indian and Asian American students. He conducted research on AIDS to spread its spread among many American Indian populations and its impact upon the cultural traditions of American Indian tribes. This became the basis for his doctoral thesis. For more than 30 years, he also led teams of American and international volunteers to help traditional Native people with physical and traditional chores in the western United States, including Hawaii, Canada, and Belize. As a mutant himself, he was a founding member of the Association of Mutant Anthropologists. and Engineers Without Borders. For several years, he served on the Finance Committee of the American Anthropological Association. Cambridge was also recognized as an expert in anthropology, archaeology, American Indian culture, American Indian religion and history by the U.S. federal courts. He conceptualized the solar Hogan in the 1960s and 1989, and he and architect Dennis Holloway received international recognition for their experiments in technology and traditional architectural designs through the Colorado Solar Hogan project at CU Boulder, which you will hear more about later in the presentation. In conclusion, this has been quite a journey working with, alongside Charlie in sweat, blood, tears, poverty, and lots of laughter. In the many battles that we have engaged with our special American Indian and Asian American Alliance these past 50 years. So Charlie, I thank you for your friendship and for your insightful guidance for my own political, personal, and educational path over the many, many years as we get older. May we continue on with the good fight with everyone, and Charlie, may the force continue to be with you.
I have a person here who's been Charlie's lifelong friend. I don't know how he stood that all these years. Anyway, we're going to have some remarks and whatever from Mr. Ken Garry, who's also, like I said, been Charlie's lifelong friend, a friend of all of us as well for all this time. So Ken, maybe I want to tell you something about there was in this bar and there was a guy there and he was standing at the bar and he went to the restroom and he came back, and when he came back, Charlie was standing there. And he looked at Charlie and he said, "Hey, do you know karate? Do you know taekwondo or aikido or any of those things?" And Charlie said, "Why are you saying that? Do you think I'm Asian and Asians think have to know all of this stuff?" He said, "No, you're drinking my beer." That's why. So anyway, I'd like to introduce Ken Garry. Here.
Yeah, my name is Ken Garry, and I've known Charlie probably, I'm sorry, my name is Ken Garry. I've known Charlie probably longer than most people in the room, except his sister, Mohammed, and I think there was a cousin, I don't know if he's still here. I met him in 1965, and Elaine was going over some of his highlights, and I have some of his lowlights written down. But Elaine said I couldn't use them, so I can't. A roast is a form of American humor intended to amuse the events by our audience. The guest of honor, Charlie, is subjected to jokes at their expense, and I was glad to find that out because I was wondering
who's going to pay for all of this. Thanks, Charlie. Charlie is supposed to be surrounded by friends, family, and well-wishers. But since we were unable to locate any of those people, we put a sign outside that read, free food and drink. Anyone is welcome, and that's how we got Charlie to attend. This incident that I'm going to tell you actually happened. I didn't have to make it up. Charlie and a couple of friends of ours went to the sink for lunch one day. It was pretty crowded, and there was a student at a table. He's sitting by himself, and he said, "Why don't you guys come over and share it with us, or with me?" So we did, and we introduced ourselves, and he asked Charlie, everybody was white except for Charlie. And he said, "Charlie, what do you do?" And he said, "Oh, I'm a Viet Cong." And so we spent about an hour eating lunch, listening to music. I think we might have had a beer, maybe, or two. I think we stopped counting it too. And so the gentleman decides he's going to leave. He shakes hands with everybody, goes up to Charlie, and he says, "Charlie, you're the nicest Viet Cong I ever met." I don't know if people remember, but that's what they used to call the Viet Cong in Vietnam. It's Charlie. We took a trip to Canada to go skiing. I think it was 1971 or so. And on the first run of the first day, Charlie breaks his leg. And so he spent about a week, everybody's shaking their heads, they remember. He spent about a week in the hospital.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. It used to be 3 days, but now it's 2 weeks. We were greeted at the hospital in Canada where we were skiing by a nurse that I refer to as Broomhilda of the emergency room. She refused. She took off his boot, which we had to do. And then he had 3 pairs of socks on. And she pulled each pair off one at a time, and I got mad, and I said, "Cut the damn things off." And she said, "And ruin a perfectly good pair of socks?" And meanwhile, every time she pulled, he's giving out a yell. So they put a cast on him, and they take him up to his room. And the gentleman that escorted us was Mario Andretti of the emergency room orderly. He managed to hit every door frame, every elevator frame. He got off the elevator on the second floor, and he started running down the hallway. And I'm trying to keep up with the guy carrying our clothing, ski boots, I don't know what else I had. He gets to the room and wangs into the door frame, and Charlie just yells at the top of his lungs. He puts the gurney by the bed, and the orderly picks him up and puts him on the bed, and he gives out a little groan, and the orderly says to him, "Real men don't scream." And Charlie says, "This one does." It's a long story to get to the punchline, but we were there for whatever, I think maybe it's up to 3 weeks now we were there instead of 2, but anyway. So we get back to Boulder, and I take him to Wardenburg, and he goes to see his doctor, Dr. Dudley. And he walks in, he says, "Doctor, I broke my leg in 2 places." And Dr. Dudley looks at him and says, "Well, stay out of those places." When Charlie was, starting the EOP, he was under, a lot of pressure and stress, and he decided to see a shrink. And he went in and he said, "Doctor, I think everybody hates me." And the doctor replied, "You couldn't possibly know everybody." I had to clean it up. Elaine said, "No sex, drugs, or rock and roll." I had to add this truth in here. Charlie was, probably most people know, he's a very caring and compassionate individual. We were walking up on the hill one day. This homeless guy comes up to Charlie and says, "I haven't eaten in 4 days." And Charlie says, "Man, I wish I had your willpower." One quick last of the story. I was at Charlie's celebration when he received his master's degree in 1976. And the gentleman at the festivities asked, "When did you start?" "See you, Charlie." He said, 1964. And the attendee said, "What took you so long?" Because it was 1976. Charlie replied, "I was waiting for the bicentennial." I think that about sums it all up. You get 1 minute for rebuttal. Remember, I had your back during
I think he's like 12 pages worth. And that, we're just thinking, so he's going to sell his book later. And the true story of Charlie. The next speaker but Tim was not able to be here, Tim Kloberdanz, and he's the president of the Student Crusade for American Indian Rights, Amerindian Rights. And he couldn't be here, but he's asked that a letter that he wrote be read, and so Downey's going to read the letter that Tim wrote.
I'm going to do this a little bit out of order. Tim wrote a letter, and then he got a brief bio at the end. I'm going to read the bio first. Dr. Tim Kloberdanz is currently a professor emeritus at North Dakota State University. Him and his wife, Rosalinda, have 2 grown sons, Mike and Matt. They all live in Fargo, North Dakota. Over the last few years, Tim has written for the legendary Rivers of the American West series, and his latest book is the full-length novel, Once Upon the Platte River, and it focuses on climate change, and the story includes 4 main characters: an African-American federal agent, an Asian-American scientist, a German-Russian arms expert, and a Native American artist activist. So, pick up the book sometime if you get a chance. Tim, I'd like to preface my reading of his letter saying that he was also very instrumental in especially the American Indian ELP programs. At that time, there was a thing called the student referendum. And the way that worked is that the students that were enrolled here, every time they enrolled and paid tuition, they paid an extra $1. And that $5. I had to pay $5. There was an extra $5, and that pot built up. And at the time, that was to bring more students of diverse backgrounds to the university. And as usual, the Indians were about to get left out. And Tim and some other people, one person that some of you may have known, John Thompson, were kind of instrumental in advocating for there to be an American Indian ELP program as well. And after a thing called the American Indian Clyde Institute workshop, a number of us elected to stay here to school. Well, some of us went to school. Anyway, I'm going to read Tim's letter here. It says, "Greetings, Charlie, and hello, dear friends at CU Boulder. I sure wish I could be there in person to celebrate Charlie's big day with all of you. But since I can't, I will mention a few things that maybe even Charlie has forgotten. On my first day as a freshman at CU in 1967, I was assigned to live in Nichols Hall. Attending CU had been a dream of mine for years. My parents were Colorado tenant farmers, and I was the first in my family to go to college. But my youthful enthusiasm soon came to a crashing halt on day 1. What a shock to carry my suitcase through the front door of Nichols Hall and then see a big frame picture of Captain David H. Nichols, the same officer who played such a pivotal role in both the Buffalo Springs and the Sand Creek massacres of 1864. And so it began in the fall of 1967, a crusade to change the name of Nichols Hall and also to fight for more Native American representatives at CU. That is how my path crossed with that of Charlie Cambridge. We found each other because of the heated controversy surrounding the college dormitory name. To get things going and to increase campus awareness, we formed SCAR, the Student Crusade for Hammer Indian Rights. In the beginning, we were so few in number that Charlie and I took turns serving as president and vice president. There were seldom enough members to fill the slots of secretary and treasurer. Eventually, Calvin Redhorse and a couple of German Russians joined us, and Elaine Takahashi and Linda Gucci of the Asian American organization were there for us. They were our steadfast allies, but actual members of SCAR were incredibly few in number. Nonetheless, the NIYC paper, ABC, Americans for Columbus, took notice that NIYC offered to affiliate with SCAR. They printed a short article about us and our efforts at CU. Well, the ABC article spelled Charlie's name right, but they spelled my name as Kloberdanz, C-L-O-B-E-R, dance. I told Charlie, how could they do that to a good German name like Kloberdanz? But Charlie just laughed, and I had to laugh too, so I got the nickname Kloberdanz. As a few of us were in the 60s, we dared to confront President Thieme. Oh, he didn't want to meet with us at first. He said a group called SCAR sounded like a goddamn game. But the name SCAR, strange and shocking as it was, did get us through the door. Thieme and Dean Rautenstrauss seemed uncomfortable, but they listened to what we had to say. Initially, President Thieme did not support minority scholarships, and he really opposed our efforts to change the name of Nichols Hall. Oh, how he frowned and cursed and carried on. SCAR, I think we scarred him, at least just enough to make him budge and reconsider. Once while we were waiting outside the CU administration building, a Latina student from UMass said to us, "So you guys are SCAR. Everyone's talking about your group. You know, a few years ago there was this big Western with John Wayne called The Searchers, and there was a tough-looking Indian in that movie whose name was Scar. Every time someone mentioned the name Scar, the music grew really loud, and everybody in the movie thought what they were doing, and they ran for cover. So keep it up, guys. You've got these Anglos really worried, and they're on the run." Well, by the fall of 1969, several Native American scholarships were granted at CU. Few as they were, it was a start. Among the first students were Frank Begay, Seth Bickrow, Miko Concha, Delmer Hamilton, Diana Lim, Gil Martinez, Richard Nichols, Charlie Primo, and Barbara Walkingston. From 1969 to 1970, a number of us lived together on the Hill at 1083 13th Street in Boulder. Remember, because of this interesting mix of people and the camaraderie, it was known it was the best of times. But because of the landlord and a dismal food situation, it was also the worst of times. Charlie did what he could to keep the landlord in line, and Charlie fought almost daily for our welfare and our rights. But it was another Boulder battle. Speaking of battles, who could have predicted that it would take more than 20 years to change the name of Nichols Hall? When it finally happened, there was a victory powwow, and Charlie sent me a long sign that hung in the Nichols Hall. The sign was really long, and Charlie sent it to my NDSU office in Pardo. Charlie addressed the Nichols Hall sign just like a regular letter, and the postage stamps in the opposite corner, in the upper right-hand corner. It was the biggest and most welcome letter I ever received in my university mail. Yet both Charlie and I knew it wasn't just a sign. It was a war trophy from a long-fought struggle with the CU administration. Charlie, you're always at the center of many battles and struggles, so maybe SCAR wasn't such a bad name after all. We get wounded again and again. And you, I don't know if it's talking about volleyball injuries. You certainly had plenty of battle scars to show for it, but you kept fighting, you held your head high, and you never gave up. Charlie, dear old friend, you have been a real warrior, a relentless warrior, and I proudly salute you on this very special day. So congratulations, Charlie, on your many years of selfless service and outrageous struggle. And kudos to all the students and supporters and fighters there at CU who helped make a difference. You showed them, we did, I admire you and love you all for it. Congratulations, Charlie. Take care, everyone, and let's win back the country in 2020. Enormous wishes, Tim Kloberdanz. I want to call David Axtell.
I want to talk a little bit about Charlie's involvement with SCI. Back in the early 1980s, I was a student in chemical engineering, and I heard a Cosmo Club meeting about an organization called SCI. And as an ex-Peace Corps volunteer, I was really excited by this whole idea. And SCI was the organization that does social service programs all over the world. Go ahead and change that now. So this is their current website, by the way, they're still in business. But anyway, I communicated with the person who was at that time the head of SCI, who was a Japanese guy by the name of Hiroatsu Sato, who was sort of legendary in SCI. But anyway, he lived in Virginia. So I talked to Sato, and I said to him, you know, would you be interested in doing a project on an Indian reservation? And he said, oh yes, very much. I decided I would approach Charlie because I knew him through Muhammad Malik, who's sitting over there, by the way, and who was an old friend of Charlie. So I went to Charlie and I said, do you have anything that we could do on the reservation? And he said, oh yeah, my uncle has an irrigation ditch that we can help clean out. We actually organized a work camp, which is what the projects that they did were called. We organized a work camp with about, I think it was about 8 people from Virginia, from the area around where Sato was living. They came out here in Volkswagen microbuses and stuff like that. And we did this work camp. One of the things that really upset Charlie a little bit was the fact that one of the people on this work camp was a woman who had a little kid. This little kid was running around. Charlie was afraid that the little kid was going to get bitten by a rattlesnake. So he declared that never again would we have a work camp with any kids on it. So after this, in that same year, we organized a couple more work camps, and John was on one of those. I had a video camera, so he took videos of one of the work camps, situations that are very common on work camps. And there's about a 6-minute video here of what happened on that work camp. So go ahead and show the video.
Do you think you don't need a law?
No, I don't think so. Well, yeah, let's try this first.
How did you get it out?
What?
Charlie borrowed his uncle's truck, by the way. Belgium, all over the place. This I call Swiss engineering. This guy is Swiss. Save our commentator.
More rocks. Big forward.
Charlie finally gave up and called in the neighbors.
Oh, the hands. Stay, same time, same place.
Oh my God, it's happened again. In the ditch. Excitement. We make up our own excitement as camp.
Now Charlie's cooking chicken.
His latest excitement. It is.
Anyway, just to lead into the next presentation, in about 1987, Charlie and I were talking up at Tulagi's. Charlie was telling me about this idea he had for building the Hoga Navajo Reservation. He was thinking about doing solar heating for these things, and so I introduced him to a professor that I had studied under named Dennis Holloway, who was an expert in solar architecture. From there we go on to Dennis Holloway and what Charlie did on solar architecture.
And Dennis Holloway couldn't be here today, and he sends his regrets. But what he did do is he sent ahead a slide presentation.
Oh be a temporary building, but first of all, from my understanding, this had international recognition, and that there were people all over who really were interested, who had done something quite unique. There are a lot of people that want to speak. The last official speaker was Cherry Emerson, who couldn't be here, but she sent along a letter, and Delma read the one from you, and I'll read the one from Cherry. But it says, "I'm so sorry I can't be here tonight. Committed businesses keep me away. I just wanted to share with all of you about my long-term friendship with Dr. Charles Cambridge." It feels so good to say that, Dr. Cambridge. I expect there are those who've known him longer. I have known him since 1972, when we stumbled across each other in the halls of the anthropology department, then the basement of Helms. We just looked at each other as we passed in the hall. I think we thought, you don't fit either. I think we established the I won't rat you out if you won't rat me out agreement. In the reality, they should have been grateful to have us both. I think our friendship bonded at that first person-to-person ethnographic analysis. However, we both punched our square pegs into the round holes without having to round up our edges. We were fortunate we both had strong advisors, Dr. Hackenberg and Dr. Alice Bruce for me and Dr. Walker for Charlie. They protected us. Frankly, they grew old with us. We both managed to stay ahead of those who thought we didn't fit in long enough to get our PhDs. And our studies were interrupted by real-world action, employment, and causes that held our passion. A few years ago, Charlie and I were talking out about who would take longer to get their PhD. A few years ago, talking about this, and I said, I'm one. Because mine literally took 25 years, almost to the day. I thought because he got his 2 years ahead of me, that he reminded me he also started 2 more years before me. So he calculated, and by his calculations, I won, because I beat you by a couple of months. He says, Dr. Charles Cambridge, I have a nice certificate for you that I will give to you when I see you in September. It certifies that you took longer to get your PhD than anyone in the history of the anthropology department. Congratulations, and your beer is on me, or Crown Royal, or just tea. In closing, I would like to say that I think that we both have contributed to non-traditional ways of education and support the causes we are passionate about, and I am proud of you and your achievements and cherish our friendship. I really wish I could be there with you tonight.
This part of the program is a dedication. This gathering of Asians and American Indians is being dedicated to my mom and dad, Ernie Lim and Margaret Glenn. This was Elaine's idea. She saw my parents as forerunners of the alliance between Asians and Indians that we celebrate today. Their lifelong bond almost foretold the lifelong bond of friendship that we formed as students. My dad was born in China. He left his parents and came to the U.S. in the 1930s as a young teenager and lived with relatives. My mom was born on the Tagawa Indian Reservation in New Mexico. She was the eldest of 7 sisters in a family of 9 children. Her youngest sister was my auntie, Carmel Lewis. Mom graduated from Albuquerque Indian School and went to work as a housekeeper in California. Mom and Dad met during the war when they both worked at the shipyard in Richmond, California. Mom was Wendy the welder. The rest is history. They had 2 girls and 2 boys and were married for 60 years. They had great respect for education and supported any efforts to further it. There was one point where a group of students, led by Charlie, stayed at our house in LA, and Mom and Dad fed and sheltered them while they worked on their project, which was gathering information on each other's backgrounds. Mom passed away in 2005. Dad passed away just last year, just shy of his 102nd birthday. Chinese people know that he was already 102 years old, according to the calendar. Many of you met him at previous gatherings, and I thank you for being so kind to him. So, here's to you, Mom and Dad. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Joyce Nakata Kim, who really took a lot of time and effort to put together this really beautiful tribute. These are members of both the American Indian and the Asian American EOP who passed away since our last gathering in 2016. And we're hoping that one day we'll be able to really go back all over the last 50 years and be able to acknowledge all those who passed before us. But today we'd like to acknowledge the following, and again, thank you, Joyce, for putting this together. years. That really was incredible. It really brought back the spirit of every single one. So thank you very much.
We have some awards here.
I'm going to read a declaration from the City of Boulder. Dr. Charles Cambridge and Yoshiko Elaine Takahashi Day, September 14th, 2019. Dr. Charles Cambridge is a member of the Navajo tribe who has a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate in anthropology from the University of Colorado Boulder, and who was the only American Indian enrolled at CU Boulder 50 years ago in 1969. Yoshiko Elaine Takahashi is a sensei, third generation Japanese American, and descendant of family members who were interned in California's Manzanar concentration camp. Earned a Bachelor of Music degree from the University of Colorado Boulder. Dr. Cambridge made a significant contribution to creating a more diverse and inclusive community when in 1969 he led a partnership together with Ms. Takahashi that successfully launched the first American Indian and Asian American educational opportunity programs on the CU Boulder campus. That success was rooted in a vision to assist underserved and underrepresented students and/or students with financial need, particularly those in the American Indian and Asian American communities. Dr. Cambridge and Ms. Takahashi and their supporters' collaborative approach was successful in obtaining the initial university funding for the two distinct programs. Dr. Cambridge was the first American Indian Educational Opportunity Director, and Elaine Takahashi was the first Asian American Educational Opportunity Program Director, appointed by the President of the University in 1970. Under Dr. Cambridge's leadership, 112 American Indian students were recruited and enrolled at CU Boulder by fall 1971. And under Ms. Takahashi's leadership, the first course on Asian American history was offered at CU Boulder in 1970. They went on to help establish similar programs on the CU Denver campus by 1972. Underserved and underrepresented individuals and/or students with financial need, when given an opportunity with these programs, have moved on to become successful artists, attorneys, government employees, engineers, civic leaders, physicians, and doctoral graduates who have given back to their communities and maintain lifelong friendships and community partnerships. The members of these programs are reuniting for a 50-year anniversary on Saturday, September 14th, to honor Dr. Charles Cambridge, an exceptional and inspirational person, and to thank Ms. Elaine Takahashi for her leadership, both of whom created opportunities and forged relationships that have had lifelong impacts and positive contributions to society. The City of Boulder continually works to increase, support, and recognize opportunities for diverse populations, including welcoming diverse student populations at the university. In acknowledgement of these contributions to a more diverse and inclusive community, the City Council of the City of Boulder, Colorado, declares September 14, 2019, Dr. Charles Cambridge and Yoshiko Elaine Takahashi Day. The seal of the city and the signature of the mayor, Suzanne Jones.
Can we take that to the bar?
Maybe I'll tell you something about Charlie. He originally wanted to go to med school. Part of the med school admissions test, they had a little question, and it said, rearrange these letters into a body part that works well when it's erect. The letters were P-N-E-I-S. The people who spell spine went on to med school.
Charlie and I lived at 1709 Arapahoe. He, and probably people remember this, had a gilt coat rack in his room. And we've been looking for one similar, and this is the best we could do.
You must realize that this there's a legendary story. I had bought my deer hoofs at an auction. The office had my deer hoof. People would come in there, administrators and Elaine and various people, and look at it and stare at it and wondered about it and stuff. So I thought I would keep it as a conversation piece. Well, when I resigned as director in '72, my steer hoofs were still in the director's EOP office for years and years and years, until Ward Churchill became director, the famous, infamous Ward Churchill. And then he put my deer hoofs in the closet. So every now and then I'll go and check the closet, it was still there. And when the EOP programs ended, my deer hoofs have disappeared. So Ken has finally found my deer hoofs. Here you go, deer.
Why don't you open it and then I'll tell the shaggy dog story that goes with it.
Is this my Halloween costume?
It's 4 seconds in your coat rack. And it actually works if you can find a place to plug it in. It'll light up. So this is a twofer, and a symbol of the love that we all feel for you. And the story that goes along with it, the reason I couldn't join you for dinner was I was just at a funeral in Sterling, Colorado. Funeral was for the big game hunter who actually shot the deer, who's are now immortalized in Islam. Our connection, I guess, is really with Asian American Heart, the Community Action Research Program. And there are several old-time members of CARPOD in the audience here. It was the Japanese Association who contributed some money so that this event could take place. CARP always met in the old, it was called the Nihon Jinkai. So that was where we ran the hot lunch program for the elderly and the food distribution program. The long story is that I worked in a law office for many years, and Dr. Elf would come in and see his son, who was one of the warriors. We got to talking, became interested in the concentration camps that Japanese Americans were incarcerated in. And actually, I didn't know that Elaine's family was actually a Manson, which is my camp. It's really nice that the Japanese Association felt that kinship with EOP and getting students into university. They never had the opportunity for higher education before. And so we put one person in the ground, resurrected him in terms of having this go to you to hopefully light the rest of your way.
I'll perfect your life.
American Indian Alumni Association. And it looks like Teresa's going to be talking.
Delmer, one of the students that was around in 1970, we were coming down from the Pioneer Reservation, bunch of Ogalalas. We did a student exchange with Boulder High. So Charlie sent Delmer down to recruit us. Maybe 50 Ogalalas came and invaded the reservation. We needed the reservation. I remember Charlie, where did you go? Charlie, I came up from Phoenix, my parents moved there. So when I came up, Charlie and a bunch of students came to get me at the airport. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get to Boulder? And these guys showed up and they took me to Pete's Diner in Denver, and we ate, and I got to see the house. I got to stay there for a little bit, and then I said, you better take me to the dorm. I have to check in. So that's when I really got lonesome, when I had to leave. Oh, there's a lot of Oglalas coming. So Delmer, Ava, and Delmer were here. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Amanda Lopez, and I was a student and employee on this campus from 1990 to 2000, and a happy active member in Oyate. I'm Sadie Sago, and I was an undergraduate student from 2011 to 2016, and now I'm a graduate student in the Integrated Physiology Department. Charlie Cambridge was definitely a great mentor when I was just starting to be the executive Oyate and / SCAR back in my day, and I remember when he gave me some very critical feedback about some leadership experience that I was encountering in my years of being Oyate exec, and I'm very grateful for his feedback and his knowledge and experience, and thank you so much.
I'm Donna Baird, and I started at CU in '96. I came here as a non-traditional student. I'm still here working on campus. I've run into Charlie throughout the years and stuff, and just hearing stories throughout the years, and just all of the community, and first generation college student. Nobody in my family had gone to school, and they came far away from home, and it was an amazing community that still supports. This is my daughter, Hattie Girl.
Hi, my name is Debbie Thomas, and I happen to be Charlie's sister. I was a CU student from 1980 to 1984.
Here's a presentation, and showing their esteem for Charlie. This isn't an award here, but I just thought I'd give Charlie something. You can take that to the bar.
Elaine has spent so many years getting this together, and I thought that we need to thank her.
That gets you in the bar too.
Charlie and Elaine, the sensei that did this moved to California recently. We're hoping to get the second one. But this is just a little, it says Okage-sama Den. And this is one for Charlie and one for Elaine. Okage-sama Den, the Japanese used to say thank you, but it's much more than thank you. Kage in Japanese is shadow. It's like a shadow warrior, but it's in the shadow of. So we say thank you to both of you. There's so many things that you have done, and when you say Okage-sama Den, it means we're grateful for the things that you have done, and even though there are people who go on will never know your name, will never know who you've done, you left a legacy, and that is the meaning behind Okage-sama. We so forevermore the people who walk through the doors of EOP and so many other places in this country are in your shadow, and so we say to each of you Okage-sama Den. And so this is what Okage-sama Den looks like. And we're hoping we'll get the second one done, but we apologize that the sensei moved to California, so we'll get this done. Thank you to both of you.
On behalf of everybody, I wanted to recognize Charlie and honor him with this blanket. This is from all of us.
All I need is a girlfriend.
We're going to have like an open mic, and anyone can come up here, tell us a funny story or something you're thinking about or whatever. Could be about Elaine, about Charlie. Who wants to volunteer first?
Back when we were discussing where to build the Hogan, we went to the university administration. They weren't very happy about the whole idea. Charlie decided to go talk to Gordon G., the president of the university. Gordon G. was all excited about the idea. He loved it. So he talked to the lower people in the administration and said, you're going to build these buildings. So that's how the Hogan project got started on the university.
I just remember one night we were having a late night study session, and we decided to move it up the hill there to the rock house. And I forgot where we started out, but we were going along. Charlie took off in his car, and I think there was about 4 girls in there. And they were all going, and they got right at the foot of Flagstaff, and somehow they took the road too fast or went off, and the car turned over. And then we got there to see if they were okay, and they were okay, and strangely enough, not one person spilled a drop of beer.
Thanks for turning the car over. The car rolled with us.
How you kept from spilling
That
your
was
beer,
all the
Teresa.
Sioux babes, you know. And then we went to the rock house, and he was going, I wrecked my vehicle. And I know, Charlie, I was right by it.
Charlie say a word or two.
There's many things that I can say, but thank you, everyone. But thinking about Sue Toyota, but that's another story. The story about the car, the rollover, was that we were drinking somewhere at Elmer's house or something, and the Indians decided to go up to the rock house where we had a drum and songs and stuff like that. The Boulder police was always getting mad at us because the sound of the drum would drift into the city. Neighbors would complain, the police would go up there and chase us off. And so this was like a recurring event. And that particular night, we had a lot of beer, and all the girls that were in the car, my white Ford, was all Sioux girls. Emily and their sisters, and we all had drinks and everything like that. And so if you go up towards Flagstaff, the road splits by Chautauqua. The right road goes in the neighborhood and the left road goes up the hill. And people were yelling, take the right road. No, take the left road. And so I went right down the middle. And so going into the slight incline, the car sort of went like this and landed on the top. So we all got out and we still had beer in our hands. Nothing spilled or anything like that. So we hitchhiked back up to Flagstaff.
I don't know about you, but we caught a ride.
Caught a ride up there and stuff. And so we were up there. Came back down, people were looking at the car. A bunch of frat guys came up, you need help. And I said, well, I need to flip the car over. And there was about maybe 8 frat guys, big football player-like things. And they flipped the whole Ford over and got back on this wheel. Really no damage at all. So then the girls got back in the car and we went back home. An addendum to the Gordon Geese story. The idea of the Hogans, the solar Hogans, was a result of a meeting that I had in Washington, D.C. with HUD officials. I got into a big argument with them. I was stressing solar appropriate technology way back when, and government officials told me that the Hogan was too primitive. Navajo people and other Indian people wanted to live in the square houses, the modern houses. And so that led to a really interesting argument. Anyway, I got back to Boulder a few days later, and I was really, seriously, still pissed off. Luckily, I was at Tlaki's, and sitting at the bar drinking a pitcher of beer by myself. Then I got this idea. In about 5 minutes, I created the 3 designs for the solar Hogan, the small one, the mid-size, and the big one. And that was like a pin that I just drew these on the barroom napkins at Tlaki's, and I drew this in the 60s. This idea was in my mind for decades, and then finally met Dave and told him about this idea. He talked to Dennis Holloway, who I'd never met before, and Dennis had just resigned from the university, and he had decided to go on his own as an architect. And he is really one of America's best architects in terms of solar design, appropriate technology, etc. He now lives in Albuquerque, but he said this dream kept coming back to him about this Hogan. He said he would charge me a low price of $2,500, and all of you know me, 25 cents is I'm rich. And I didn't have the money, and I said, well, one day I'll get the money, I'll give you some money for the construction designs. And he said, okay. And about a year later, he called me and told me that he had completed the construction design. Between jobs and between his dreams and everything like that, decided that he needed to do that. His whole experience changed his life completely. He left Boulder, moved to New Mexico, and his designs took a radical turn in a whole different direction, like indigenous types of things. He started organizing, started getting grants in the university. What I did with Gordon Gee was that we needed, the university officials did not want this. They thought it was a little bit sort of strange. This was a strange idea. And so I met the gardener, the Mexican gardener that worked on the grounds at the president's mansion. We bought him a 6-pack of beer and asked him to talk to Gordon Gee. He met Gordon Gee once a week to go over the activities of the coming days. He talked to Gordon Gee. He said that these people want to talk to you about the design they have. And so we met with Gordon Gee. And this is because of this Mexican gardener and the beer thirst that he had. so we met with Gordon Gee, and Gordon Gee was a Mormon, so he's forced to love Indians. So because of that, he called facilities management, and this is where like Dave and everyone gets involved. Facilities management drove us around campus all over Boulder, where the university had property. So we saw everything that the university owned in and around Boulder, selected the site that was adjacent to the president's mansion because it would have very high visibility and high exposure. And we got students to do the work, physical labor. I showed students how to cut stone, which was really fascinating. So you have these little small girls that are blonde cheerleader types, and they're swinging a huge hammer and cutting the stone, and they're interesting experience. And these were mostly environmental design folks that were designing bridges and skyscrapers and everything like that, and they never held a hammer in their farm. So this was practical experience of being a foreman, that type of thing. The forest department allowed us to go into the burned up areas of a recent forest fire, and we cut the logs that we needed. One of the quarries in North Boulder towards Lyons, they donated all the rock we could carry. So we got one of the university dump trucks and drove up there and continuously loaded tons and tons and tons of stone and drove it to our job site, and then that's when I showed the students how to cut the stone. So it was a fascinating experience for all concerned. And we did receive an international award from a Japanese magazine, Process Architecture, that comes out like once every 6 months. And they selected 100 of the best solar designs in the world in that particular issue. The solar hogans were right in the middle of this fabulous magazine. So we were right in the best of what the world had to offer at that time. And this made such a big impact internationally. We were getting letters and calls from other minority groups around the world, from Africa, from Asia, that they wanted to have us apply the same idea. Basically, I created the idea of indigenous architecture in the sense that you can take a traditional design from the deep, dark past of any culture and high-tech it enough whereby it still keeps the integrity of the old, but it also has everything to offer of the new. So we did as much as we could in terms of our time and budgets and stuff like that, but it did really make a big international impact. Another sidebar is that Amanda, that was up here, she and I sued the university, no, not the university, we sued the National Bureau of Standards, the Department of Commerce, to save the medicine wheel in the middle of Boulder. And we sort of technically won, but the judge ruled that the building had to be built in for the public good. But the judge ruled on our behalf that all the land here in the middle of Boulder was sacred Indian land, but he allowed the building to be built for the public good. So, so there's small victories, there's compromises, and various things like that. But Amanda was a big part of that. The therapists are in the way, so I can't see. Because we're in some time limit, I really appreciate tonight for a lot of different reasons. A lot of you, all of you are really good friends. That must be stated. We've been through many things in the years past, but a lot of you don't know each other. And I purposely kept it that way. luckily, several other friends are not here tonight. But there's a lot of questions that you probably have that perhaps I can answer at a later time. But I blame Elaine for a lot of things. I miss teriyaki chicken. Every time we had a problem with the university officials, Elaine, go get some chicken. Cook it for them. And if you remember the great Asian takeover of the little patio outside Regent's Hall when there was, I can't remember the particular issues, but Elaine and the troops had their little hibachi at the air intake vent. You walk into Regent's Hall and you have this aroma of good food. So the administration collapsed and Elaine needed and wanted it. But thank you for everything. I do appreciate the university for helping out and everything like that. This is the first time I've been in this room since the 60s. I had a class in here, Introduction to Sociology, taught by, I can't remember his big name, Howard Hickman, the famous Howard Hickman. And he taught the class here, and I sat back there with some of the folks. But yeah, it was a great night. Thank you.